IDEC as a platform was built of professionals, for professionals and by professionals.
Here you have different streams, but this is a truly platform for sharing knowledge.
This platform is one of the best platforms that I have seen till now.
Very good knowledge sharing and new technology, what is evolving in the world that we are seeing here. Stalls are there and people are getting good exposure.
It's a great platform for architects, interior designers, developers.
I'm so glad that we have an entire panel of whatever is constituting buildings.
It's been fabulous. I think I've learned a lot already in just seeing some of the exhibitors and some of the stalls, and it's been a fabulous experience.
It's actually the quality that's more important than anything. Quality of the stalls, quality of your signages. People are not really asking stuff around. It's so convenient to move around out here. It's so well planned, organized.
Thank you very much. I have the pleasure to introduce the moderator for today's session. Dhaval Thakur is partner and co-founder at Nova Exhibitions Conferences and event director of IDEC Expo. Nova has executed 4 large exhibitions in Mumbai and in Hyderabad, 40 physical conferences across India, and over 200 plus digital events. Dhaval completed his PGDM in Strategic Relationship and Marketing from George Brown College in Toronto. He has over 15 years of industry experience. He believes in creating events that can have a positive impact on the society we live in. He also believes in an individual's passion and is fulfilled by the support and confidence received from the clients and the people that you connect with and meet every day. Dhaval, welcome on stage. Shall I take these away if they're distracting?
No, I'm good.
Hello. It feels weird to be on the other side of the podium. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you, TAC, for this wonderful opportunity, and congratulations on the expo. It's turned out to be beautiful, so 3 cheers to you for that. The subject which we have selected today is a bit not very technical, but sometimes what we have been experiencing is design, but what people don't analyze is the human impact of the occupants of the building once they live in those buildings. High-rises, skyscrapers are the need of the hour, which I don't deny, but keeping that need in mind, I feel we're somewhere drifting away from what our culture is and what India stands for, because a lot of our skyline now starts looking something more like a Manhattan, thanks to the cut, copy, paste work which is happening of glass buildings coming up left, right, and center. So this is going to be a very different perspective on what do we require in India for vertical cities. So we have just a couple of slides over here, which, okay. So if you see currently the skyline which is mentioned over here, I'm sure a lot of us have been living in Bombay for at least 2 to 3 decades, and you can see the massive change which is there right from Marine Drive to Worli, right from 2006. I think what you see in 1990 when I came to Bombay for the first time, and what I see right now, 2020, the breathing space has come down a lot. And even I can't believe it, there was actually a beach, the Chopati beach, which used to stretch all the way to Nariman Point, has vanished right now completely, thanks to all the tall buildings and the land grabbing that's happening. So another most important element we'll be covering over here, the members who are on the panel with me come from different culture background. A few of them have lived in Bombay. Most important thing which I realize is with my kids now, the lack of cultural integration, which used to be there in a city like Bombay, where people used to come to celebrate together, celebrate Eid, Diwali, Holi, Christmas. Right now, thanks to nucleus family, has moved into high-rises. We don't know who our neighbor is. So that is something which I find very sad for our kids, because we've enjoyed this time. I'm sure all of us over here has enjoyed this time when we were kids. And it's not about just the festivals, but also enjoying and playing around with each other, which is very important for a child's development, which is now lacking. And that's something which needs to be included in designs currently. Right now, what we see on the screen, festivals have become a way of showing just your power, especially in a metro city like Bangalore, like Hyderabad, like Mumbai, where instead of actually going out and enjoying, I feel high-rises which are coming up right now, we only have lights across the city. It looks like a massive light bulb. And I'm sure Suresh sir here will agree with me. The light pollution that is caused during these 4 months, starting from September to Jan, is blinding to a lot of people. And it may be a display of strength for few developers, but that's something that needs to be considered on how we can reduce this. And the energy, yes. Another most important thing, which is going to be maintenance and disaster management. We are looking at a very positive movement with the PMAY schemes, but we are ignoring the fact of educating these people when they move from a Mumbai chawl to a 50, 60, 70, 80-story high-rise where we intend to put them in. How are we going to educate them on disaster management, on fire drills, water floods? I'm sure the team Otis can throw light about when they started in India, the kind of elevators which were there, and now how do we intend to educate these people who've been living in 4 or 5-story building to use an elevator in a 70-story building? So a lot needs to be taught to these people, because currently even the fire drill marshals, the fire drills which are supposed to happen on a regular basis in your buildings do not happen. So how it is kind of calling for a disaster by moving lakhs and lakhs of people who are not used to these 80, 70-story structures from a 5-story building to a 80-story building. So with this, I call upon our panelists who are going to take it ahead from here. So I want to invite first architect Vivek Bhole. He's considered as one of the most, one second. Perfect. So I'll have, one second. So we have, yes. So we have architect Vivek Bhole, considered as one of the leading architects in Mumbai. And he's the principal architect of Vivek Bhole Architects, which has been established more than 22 decades ago. And he has made his mark in Mumbai skyline as one of the leading high-rise designers and architects across India, and now working not only in Bombay, but across the nation. Vivek has incorporated an integrated approach to design and combines function, beauty, and the environment. He's strongly committed to the quality, professionalism, integrity, and architecture is woven to every aspect of his life. Vivek sir's success mantra is only sheer hard work, dedication, ingenious vision, and out-of-box thinking can take you to new heights. So can I please call upon architect Vivek Bhole? Next. Do we have? Oh, sir, up to you.
So good morning. I'll take this topic little further ahead. Now, you had some different way of describing skyscrapers from architect's point of view, and what really is the need of the day. So this is the skyline we all know. Mumbai, not only Mumbai, all across India, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chandigarh, you go everywhere, the skyline is changing. And you can see the FSI is not the highest in Mumbai. So in fact, Mumbai is the lowest FSI. It responses late. Hello? Yeah. January. Yeah. So you can see FSI Mumbai is very less, 1.33. That is the FSI currently in the city center. But Singapore is 25, other cities you can see there. But the scenario is going to change very fast. The lower right this graph that shows currently city is giving FSI up to 8. And there are various schemes from 2 to 8. And there is something which is premium paid FSI, there is TDR, and there is something base FSI which is also increased from 1 to 2. So eventually, we are going to see a lot of high rises in Mumbai also. You can see the rat race. All the buildings are going tall, and then probably we won't be having the skyline also, because the skyline will be just a horizontal line which is going up. And one thing we need to remember, in this concrete jungle, we will have to remember always that we are part of some environment, some culture. So what is that environment? We are into a tropical climate. So if you see most of India, most of the southern part of India, we are into tropical, semi-tropical kind of climate. And the general concrete buildings, what we take from West or we take from Gulf, that is not going to work for us. So these are few buildings. I didn't really wanted to show my projects, but they are relevant to this topic. And when it comes to designing high-rise residential buildings, I always prefer people should actually get the experience of a villa. So villa in sky is the concept. And unfortunately, the current DC regulation, they don't allow us to do the same. But most of my buildings, you must have noted Vanavigna Park in Parel or at 81 in Bandra, which is the tallest in Bandra. My plans are pretty simple, very functional, individual apartment, acts like a villa with lots of common areas and deck areas around. And like 15 feet of deck in Vanavigna Park or something similar happening in or at 81. This is one more building we are making with Prestige. Again, the decks, you can see the plans all across the periphery. We have got decks, we have got columns. There is a restriction of 2 meters of cantilever. So we have got columns outside the building line so that we get maximum deck area. These are 2 more buildings under construction. So on one side, this is Aurum Square in Goregaon, and the other one is in Hyderabad. So you can see the plan. In Hyderabad, we have got 15,000 square feet of one apartment, 12,000 square feet of 2 apartments per floor, a 55-story tower. But outside, large deck is there, and then we have got swimming pool, we have got double height areas. Unfortunately, the double height, only city which was giving free of FSI double height was Pune. And recently with the DC regulation, the set of DC regulation adopted from Mumbai, they have actually removed them. And eventually they are going to a substandard, typical boxy kind of architecture. But you can see the plan which is on the lower side, which is for Goregaon. Again, double height decks on either side of the apartment. So this makes these high-rise buildings more tropical. Of course, Vastu is the constraint in Hyderabad. Unfortunately or fortunately, we get opportunity to design few high-rise commercial buildings, but not every time you get the same kind of freedom, and then you need to focus onto your FSI consumption, your vertical transport, your facade treatment, and other needs of the building. Besides that, whenever it comes to high-rise building in Mumbai, inevitably, you will always have parking below the building. The footprint of the building and the footprint of the parking will be matched, and it becomes a structural nightmare sometimes. But cladding that part in green is always, it's a joy. And then going little away from this kind of architecture, sometimes we do this. I cannot disclose the name of the project, but a 55-story twin tower, we have got lots of green areas around the building, and then you can actually create spaces outside those variety of decks, usable spaces inside and outside getting connected, and spillover areas, different WeWork kind of spaces are there, restaurants are there, and you can create that health and well-being environment within those compact commercial buildings as well. So this is just to set the mood of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very nice presentation indeed. Next, I introduce architect Jay Shah. He is the director of Access Architects. Architect Jay Shah grew up traveling to various places in India and abroad with a varying and rich cultural history. He recognized a part of him that was sensitively aware of the effect on the green buildings he had on the people within them. The internal optimist in him believes that great architecture helps enrich the soul. He completed his architectural education at Columbia University, New York. He believes in looking beyond where every effort is made for continuous improvement to ensure that clients receive cutting-edge innovation, design, and implementation. He works closely with clients to develop initial concepts that complement their overall strategy. He's an innovative architect who draws inspiration not only from his travels to different places around the world, but also from his daily surroundings in which he lives. Architect Jay Shah, please. Let's have a round of applause to welcome all the panelists, please. Thank you.
Good morning. So we had a couple of interesting presentations about talking about architecture and culture or buildings and culture. Dhaval had a little bit of an interesting take, which was, I would say, a more non-architectural take, and Vivek spoke a lot about, from the architect side of point of view, what we could do. I think it should be interesting. I would say what I'm about to present might be a good mixture of the two. So let me take you through that, and then maybe if we have some time, I'll take you through something that I was involved in, which directly talks about elevatoring. Whenever you're... No problem, no problem. No problem. So we have some time while the system restarts. Just for sort of an understanding of the audience, how many architects in the audience? Good. We are the minority. Interesting. How many sort of developers? None. Perfect. And from the vendor, from the elevator side? Okay, that's the majority. Brilliant. Interesting. Fair. So, this is just a little bit about us. So, when we talk about the culture of buildings and of high-rises in general, the fact of the matter is, like Vivek said, there is no option but to start urbanizing. There's no option but to start building tall. This is just some of our contribution to the Mumbai skyline, but one of the things you do realize is that a lot of it does look very similar. So when we start seeing buildings, though there has been a lot more finesse that has been added to buildings over time, you do see that things have been similar, and buildings do look rather similar over time. And back to Vivek's point, there is a reason for that. So I thought today, let me talk about a building where, while the buildings have sort of improved over time, and that's some of our work, let me talk about a building where we really did sort of rethink how culture could start integrating within high-rise. So this is a project that we were involved in 2009. And we had got this, so we worked with MVRDV on this. They were the master planners, and we were the architect on this project, design architect on the project. And the initial sort of thought process for this was to start integrating culture into high-rise building design. And much to Dhaval's point, the idea was, why don't we start creating mohallas? So you start having different kind of people, and what we meant by different kind of people is we had actually set up units not as 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. We had sort of designed, what would be the house for a young couple, what would be the house for someone who's slightly older, what would be the house for, say, grandparents where the kids are not with them. And so what we had done was we had bunched up apartments from that point of view, and each block actually had its own amenity space. So people of a similar, thought process could actually work together or sort of play, live together, etc. And it was really interesting that this is about a 62-story building that was designed. And funnily, we had got this to the point of, after getting all the costing and everything done, we had got this to a point where we had actually started issuing excavation drawings to site to be able to build this. And then what Vivek said happened, where your FSI rules kind of completely went for a flip. And you start seeing the reason why our skyline, unfortunately, is the way it is, that, like he said, we can't do double height spaces. You can't do so many things which I think can really impact the culture of people that live in those buildings. And I think partly, we as architects and people who design and build buildings, and of course the entire community with it, need to take a little bit more of an active role to start rethinking what is the impact of life from the design of the buildings that are being put together. It could have been a vision for a different way of living. And this is just one example. There are so many else out there. But I think we've become a lot less ambitious than we should be because we're tied down by a lot of things. And I think that somehow needs to change somewhere. This is a completely different shift. And the reason why I bring this up is because we are at an elevatory conference. Way back in 2008, I was playing around with, at university, one of my professors was, I would say, the father of artificial intelligence and architecture. And so had come up with this methodology of using genetic algorithms to set up designing with artificial intelligence. So we had basically set up three things. How do you set up a facade where all of your structure happens on the facade and a core in the middle? How do you reduce the size of the core, keeping elevatoring set up? And how do you maximize the amount of daylight coming into the project? So you had the ecological impact, you had the sort of maximizing of floor space impact, and you had sort of cost with number of elevators and also we'd set up a whole bunch of parameters to be able to get this right. This will take about an hour to explain, but I do feel that there is the way, when we typically start with projects, what you typically end up doing is send out, I'm doing so many apartments or so many offices, and elevator, a vendor or a vertical transport consultant comes back to us in a day or two, listen, this makes sense, that makes sense. I think we need to go far, far beyond where we are today and the way we are working today. Just because of paucity of time, I'm not going to be able to explain this entire thing, but I could tell you that in general, I think there is a need for going beyond where we currently sit in terms of elevator design and elevator planning. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. That was really very insightful and wonderful. Mr. Nishant Gupta has been working with AHC for nearly 10 years after the completion of his architectural education from APJ School of Architecture and Planning in Greater Noida. He's been involved in the design development of many compact housing projects and has done research on housing scenarios and low-cost housing in India. His major projects include Patna Riverfront Development, Affordable Housing in Serbia, Lodha Kolshet, the Marquise for Uptown and Radius, Sheltrex, Monarch Rise, Mumbai Coastline Freeway, and Blue Dream City in China. May I please welcome on stage Mr. Nishant Gupta.
Good morning, everyone. I think this introduction is pretty dated, but okay, it's part of me. So anyways, I think there had been interesting viewpoints from all the speakers here. I would say that looking at the audience, I would be talking looking at the audience, because if I'm a DJ I've been asked to, play tracks, I would not play tracks which I like, but I would play tracks which the audience, so considering that, there's a 90%, 95% is all elevator industry based and hardly one or two architects and no developers, it becomes, a different scenario. So anyways, high rises have always been a celebration of achievements as humanity. And it is inevitable that cities like metropolitans like Mumbai have a need of high rise because of the kind of density we are dealing with. Now, just taking a sadistic view and criticizing that they sort of are devoid of symbolism as a culture or as livelihood or as a celebration of your festivals, I think may not be appropriate from my opinion. But as a designer, it becomes our responsibility how, Jay showed, that through design, we can sort of still bring in, areas, community areas. We can still bring in the same Diwali celebration that could happen probably high up in the air. We can still bring in those small playgrounds. We can still bring in a lot of other things. So I think as architects, it becomes our responsibility. With given constraints, we find a solution, for a better, tall future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Vatsal Gokani is partner in the Mumbai-based structural engineering firm Gokani Consultants. He received his bachelor's in civil engineering from VGTI Mumbai and master's in structural engineering from the University of Texas at Austin. He has 17 years experience in the structural design of tall buildings as well as other types of building structures. His interests include seismic engineering and performance-based design. May we please welcome onto stage with a warm round of applause, Mr. Vatsal Gokani. And finally, I have the privilege to welcome Mr. N.S. Singh, General Manager and National Product Head at Otis Elevator Company. He has over 35 years of experience in offering elevator solutions and product design for tall residential, commercial, and mixed-use buildings. His experience lies in lift lobby planning, structural configuration, and speed of elevators for high-rise buildings. May I please welcome Mr. Narendra Singh on the stage.
First, I would like to greet you all to this wonderful session. Good morning to all of you, and I believe today's session will be very interactive with the group as it looks, as I see around. And basically what we'll need to see is how over the last few decades, this housing industry has evolved, getting into tall structures. And the tall structures have grown taller and taller over a period of time. What elements of design are important? And as it was mentioned that passenger experience is going to be of utmost importance. So the lobby designs, the dispatch systems, and technologies, which interface, because more and more buildings would be now coming with mixed use, where you have a bank of elevators, group of elevators. So you have group of elevators, and then you have shuttle elevators in between, which moves the people faster from one zone to the other zone. So how that would get integrated with new technologies is something we would talk about. So I think we'll look forward to the interactions and the queries from the audience, and we'll try to help answer as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh. It also rekindles a lot of passion in my heart, being an ex-elevator DNA person. For those of you who know, I worked with Schindler for almost a decade. Full respects for what we do as an elevator and escalator community in furthering the cause for high-rise building and development. What I would now do is, for the rest of the proceedings of this panel discussion, hand over to our moderator, Mr. Dhaval Thakur. And, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Tak. That's a very timely cue. What we would do is we'd go ahead and have the group photograph first, please, if you don't mind.
Yes. Hello, hello. Yeah. Good morning. So, interesting take. I think we have very different perspectives from everyone. We have young architect, we have someone with 3-decade experience, we have an engineer, and we have someone who manufactures their dream also on my left. And I'm an occupant, that's it. So, I have a question for you, Nishant. Your approach to the design is very positive, which I'm really, really happy, where you mentioned that, yes, there is a scope of including culture in design. In fact, I was introduced to Mr. Yarke Engel by Vivek sir, and when I've seen his designs, young architect like you, very bold, has managed to do the same. And do you think now your firm has been doing the maximum master planning and high rises, I guess, across India? How much importance and does it play when it comes to designing for a building in Chandigarh vis-a-vis designing a building, let's say, you're doing a couple of projects in Rajkot, you're doing a couple of projects in Bangalore also. Does the brief from client impact your cultural integration for high-rises, yes or no? Because I've seen how a golf course road buildings look. I've seen how the prestige buildings look in Bangalore. And now you're doing a 30-story building even in Rajkot. So how do you go about that process?
So I think, every development that comes, the brief or a vision is out of a sheer purpose. And that purpose differs before coming to the cities in the country itself. But let me go about comparing it around the world. So when we compare it with the West, the high-rises in West are predominantly mixed-use development or they are offices. But the moment you talk about high-rises, barring few Asian countries and cities like Bombay, all high-rises are, of course, Dubai also, another example, are all residential. Now, why is that West do not have residential high-rises and we have residential high-rises? So one has to understand what is the purpose. The purpose here is, different, and that is meeting demand of housing requirement. And we are our cities are awfully devoid of infrastructure. And because we are devoid of infrastructure, a certain development has to happen in certain areas. Why not in New York? Because there is a strong infrastructure. One can take a underground and be from one point to other point in no time. Now when we come to India, now just talking about different cities in India itself, from Bombay, when we are doing a project in Bombay, there are challenges of meeting whatever the FSI, and they'll be part of a SRA or a redevelopment project. There are challenges of what the views are. You know, everybody wants a sea view, everybody wants a good view. You go to Delhi, and in Bombay you'll have smaller, compact, you know, smaller apartments. You go to Delhi, your apartment sizes would be, you know, 1.5 to 1.75 times than what we are designing in Bombay. You can have more basements because of the soil condition there. And the layouts are larger because, you know, the way the policies and, you know, the land is available. You go to Kolkata. Now, when you go to Kolkata, you have different challenge of the soil condition there and the earthquake-prone areas and little bit intervention of Vastu and everything would come in and a symbolism of culture, what we keep talking about. But the moment you then go to Chennai and you have Vastu in high-rise, so you're doing 6 apartments, 10 apartments, but they cannot be touching each other. I mean, that's the basic, you know, mistake for a high-rise, and we continue doing that because that's a requirement of the market. So then coming to a city itself, you know, not just comparing Chandigarh with Bombay, but I would say Bombay with Bombay itself. When I do doing a project in Nepean Sea Road, the size of apartments, the requirement of apartments are different. I come to Tardev, the size requirement of the apartment are different. I go to Worli, the size is different. And then the, you know, this whole thing about height and everything comes down because of airport here. And then as I go further far, again, Malad and everything, it sort of changes again. So even when in a city, when it is so diversified, I think having a same formula or a same thing, I think would put all of us out of business. You holding these conferences and us as an architects, and we perhaps would have, you know, service providers like Airtel or Jio doing the, you know. So I think the formula is not the same for all projects.
So you mean to say first, infrastructure development is far more important and that needs to be observed before you design the entire building? Is that how you go about your process?
No, I think that sort of, I like to continue what I was saying, having a rich dad and a poor dad. Our cities, we do not have that we could put in fund and develop the infrastructure first, unfortunately. Even if there is money, that is not going in the right place. So I think we need to do development. The city needs to earn with taxes. Once you get those taxes, you know, the city is following up with the infrastructure. So I think it would be ideal scenario that, you know, you have a good infrastructure, but unfortunately, I mean, you cannot sort of do anything about it.
You can't bargain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vivek, sir, you are doing the largest redevelopment plan in Maharashtra right now, where I believe you're going to be housing 10 to 15,000 people in Worli. That space, which is the BDD Chawl, does have a story behind it, which has been from negative to positive. How do you plan to, are you planning to maintain that element, or are you intending to give it a complete new revamp phase altogether? What is your perspective and objective when you've designed that entire campus, which is a massive redevelopment scheme of 10,000 people, and you've been doing this is your crux, your core. How do you intend to take the heritage over there ahead?
So you got a very specific question for BDD, but I always see to it that the culture should go into the building as well. So people like to stay in Koti, so we make that villa in sky concept. And people always prefer Koti over high-rise buildings. Now these people in BDD Chawl, for generations, they are staying in that ground plus 3 buildings. There are those big wide corridors in between, so a lot of social spaces there. Now, apart from that, when we design any building, we actually design the lifestyle of the people. So I cannot say, after my design is over and you shift into a new building, you continue with the same lifestyle. So I'm going to upgrade their lifestyle, but with all the positives of their past. So even in my new design, there are social spaces, there are those wide corridors. I've got garden at 3 levels. So in fact, we are adding their green spaces. Whatever green they have currently, plus additional, almost 2.5 times of that, we are giving them back. So at different levels, the gardens are there. And the amenities, we are giving them extra amenities. We are trying to see that those amenities will be maintained. So any landscape element or any feature which is there, it should be maintainable. We know when we change their lifestyle, like let's say parking. Now we are giving parking to almost half of them. Per 2 apartment, 1 parking is there, which is not the current need, but maybe it's there in future. And if the parking increases and they tend to park their cars over the gardens, so right from the beginning we are designing in such a way that they won't be able to use the green spaces for parking. You have to design their lifestyle, okay, upgrade their lifestyle, keeping their culture intact. That is the idea.
Got it. Vatsal, engineers are considered to be the most important element when it comes to high-rise, where without your nod, without your guidelines, I don't think high-rise is more of a playground for engineers. When you work with most of the professionals on the panel, do you include, or when it comes to your processes of designing ideology, I've seen your Lodha Amara where I think Nishant had come up with a very different solution of solving the ramp. How do you kind of take your process when it comes to working with young architects like Nishant, vis-a-vis you working with someone who has 30, 40 years of experience? How do you take that up?
The first thing I'd like to point out is before a plan comes to a structural engineer, a lot of the business and economic decisions have already been taken. Yeah, like the use of the project and the design mix of the project, the FSI calculations, all these have been taken into consideration before it comes to our table. So when it comes to our table, we have to make sure that we have this vision that the architect and the developer has. You know, we imbibe the vision. Then comes the requirements, architectural requirements, the cost requirements. And as Nishant pointed out, that the vision and the requirements of each and every project is very different. What you build in town is what we would not do in a Lodha Amara. And so the process is almost the same when it comes to young or old architects, but the process is that you have to understand what is required out of the project and what is required out of the design before we put down a structural system in place. You know, the project has various stages like the concept design, the schematic design, a detailed design, and the construction phase. So, you know, we try to make sure that all these aspects, the requirements of the project are met only in the initial stages like the concept design and the schematic design, so that we do not have any surprises towards the end of the project. You know, engineering is like, is about meeting all the expectations of all the stakeholders on the project, and we try to do that as much as possible as we go.
Got it. Jay, in your presentation, we discovered that you're a techie, and you have one more person with a similar interest who himself is a coder. And I want to ask you, you're in the second generation firm, and what you pointed out that invariably or unfortunately the skyline starts to look similar in Bombay. Do you think having a linear set of design when it comes to residential towers will be better, or every structure having its own identity is a better option? Or do you think when it comes to high rises, they all should look alike and makes your job easier also, but gives the simple linear skyline to Mumbai or any other city? Or do you think a different structure is something which will work out better?
We would not all be actually required if all of the buildings were to look the same. So I think for sure the idea is that everybody's requirements are different, every project is different, every plot is different, and everyone's way of thinking is different. So I think that's a given, that you would want to be able to sort of adapt to what you find are the needs or what you think would be the requirement. And that would be true with, you know, if somebody came up with a plot like Hiranandani Powai today, you know, the response could have been completely different than what it was at that time. And the fact of the matter is that's what makes it interesting, right? That's what makes somebody would love to do that. Somebody might not like to live in a place like that. So I think variety is the spice of life. I think that's a given. And with regards to the technology thing, I definitely want to talk a little bit about where I see that going. Because if you think about the way we used to live about 10, 15 years ago, and if you see, you know, from UPI to Swiggy to all of that, and how much our life has changed. And if you think about how we used to work 10, 15 years ago in the building industry and today, you see a very, very, I mean, I would say a minute change. And I can tell you that much like the West, we cannot ape their software, their hardware, etc. Our challenges are different, and we need to kind of innovate for the problems that exist here. So whether it be, you know, how does one actually construct buildings? How does one design buildings? How does one optimize buildings? The technology is out there, and we need to be able to innovate from here for the world, rather than try and pull it from the world to India, which is what seems to be happening. Yeah, that's probably my 2 cents.
Being architect, okay. So when it comes to symmetry and contrast, you know, you would like to see a group dance. All the performers are symmetrically dancing, and you can enjoy it much better. But if I show you the same dance 10 times, you may not be able to enjoy the same, you know. So you need contrast, but you need symmetry. So if there is a group housing, unless the requirement changes, I won't go for different set of plans or maybe different set of aesthetics. Maybe I'll keep the vocabulary same, and the design may tweak a bit so that I break the monotony. But then certainly every plot has got different requirement. If the plots are at different locations, then I need different design. And if I start making the same building over and over again, people won't pay me for that, you know.
No, I agree that similar designs can get boring, but I have a question. I'll come to Narendra first. Otis has been the longest and one of the oldest players who entered into India when it comes to elevators. I remember, though my childhood has been not in India, but I used to come to one of my old grandfather's house in Girgaon, where all the double height ceilings were there, and their 5-story building feels like 10 stories. So that time there was no elevator, and even still that building doesn't have an elevator. Majority of the buildings don't in Girgaon side. But what is the transition that you've seen in terms of designing? Because elevators have become an interactive point. They have become a place where people get together, and that 1 minute, 30-second, 40-second ride in that elevator has become a quick gossip corner also. So what have you seen transition from those old elevator days to 2022 in design?
Okay. Hello. Good question. So basically, being in the industry for quite a long time, I have seen the evolution of elevators in terms of technology, passenger experience, the code per se, the NBC, IS, so a lot of transition there also has happened. So basically when I go back around, say 2 decades back, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, I think 20 to 25 story building used to be considered to be tall rise. And I do remember, some of the tall buildings, like in Altamount Road and all that. In our history books, I think Usha Kiran used to be one of the buildings which used to be covered in our history books, 26-story, Altamount Road. That used to be the tallest building, I think, in Mumbai. And people used to, go around that place to have a look at that tall building. So as things evolved, and basically I also came into the elevator industry, so I saw a change in the technology evolution, as also the number of stops kept on moving up as the buildings grew more taller. So then we started seeing something like 30-35 stops building getting very common and tall rise, but still 100 meters, 110, 120 meters. And slowly then again it picked up, and then I think there was some evolution happened, and then we saw some very tall rise buildings like the Minerva, the Kohinoor Square, and I was fortunate enough to have worked on those buildings during the design stage. So, the technologies also changed, the product type, product designs, the way we design, those, not the buildings I would say, because buildings are designed by other people. So basically the shaft, the overhead pit, the piston effect, seismic operation, the dispatch system, all of those evolved over a period of time. So today when I see those things, I think 200, even the NBC has undergone a change now. So they also tend to define, it happened in 2016, because up to 2015 or 16, there was nothing defined in the codes other than the fireman lift, which was 24 meters travel. So 24 meters travel was something which was defined, after which you need a fireman lift. Beyond that, nothing was really defined. So once the NBC also incorporated that, and we saw advent of very tall buildings. Primarily, the reason was that as the population grew and moving more into urban areas and big cities, I think buildings had to grow taller because space was restricted, land prices were very high, and people's aspiration grew, and the aspiration used to be to live on higher floors, tall rise, skyscrapers, whatever you call it. So having worked in on this type of projects like Kohinoor, one of the tall structures in Mumbai, and some other projects as well in other parts of the country, like in Hyderabad and all, design elements of an high-rise building is very important. So is some of the aspects of the dispatch system. Now dispatch systems over a period of time also have evolved, like from a two-button system which used to have, I think most of the people would have experienced that we used to have the two-button system. Now it's moved to destination dispatch system, and 4-car group, what usually we used to see, 4-car group was the max we could do at one point of time, maybe 2 decades back. It moved up to 6-car group operation, larger lobbies, 8-car group operation, 10-car, and today I think we have reached, I think as Jay was mentioning, we need not pick up the technologies as it is, but wherever it is available today, and we can redesign it and design it again to meet our requirements, I think we should do it. And fortunately, I have been associated with some projects where we have done close to 10-car group operation and 12-car group operation also. In terms of other technologies, over a period of time, I think when we evolved, I think variable frequency was the last technology in elevators with permanent magnet motor machines, belt system and all that. And now we are moving on to something which is going to be very different. Instead of the elevator now the elevator would talk to you like connected elevators, what we call today. So now lifts would get connected. We have, at our place, we have the Otis One. Otis has launched that Otis One. So we can connect those elevators and all the system, feedback, the data points, all would reach to a central location, maybe to the cloud system. It gets analyzed as quickly as possible. So per se, saying something, telling somebody to do something, those, I think things would, over a period of time, get eliminated. So data processing, voice communication system, I think those are the futuristic new generation technologies which will come into the elevator system, which will help people from a communication point of view, whether they want to reach out to outside somebody from inside an elevator, it all would be possible. Today, like we see large screen from passenger experience, what is happening out can be seen inside. Large, touch screen displays, large ones like 14 in 15. It's like a TV, running with the live media connectivity. So all these are going to, help people, passengers, get a much more better experience, traveling in an elevator. So it's going to be a pleasure to travel in elevators going forward. Thank you.
I have a open question to all the four consultants on the panel. Traffic. Today, I think that is a pain point for everyone in our city. What suggestion or out-of-the-box ideas, especially in places like Lower Parel, where it's densely populated with a lot of 80-story buildings, which are just next to each other, and what suggestions can you give which can make the condition of these roads, of the traffic? Because today if I have to go from, let's say, from here to Kolaba, it's an easy 1.5 hour 45 minutes drive, which should not be the case. Which earlier, I would say only 5 years ago, it was probably a 40-45 minute drive, which is now a 1.5 hour drive. So what out-of-the-box ideas, Nishant, Vivek, so you have in mind that can be adopted by the BMC?
There is no out-of-box idea. It's a proven solution which every overpopulated city is adopting. It's a last mile connectivity. There is nothing new, no rocket science. Public transport is the only solution. Okay, and we have to do it as early as possible. Unless we achieve it on time, we are going to face this traffic problem. And that is the only solution.
But, yeah, Nishant.
So, like Vivek rightly said, even World Trade Center, it has 13 number of car parks, So that is the kind of strong public transport system any high-rise, in West offers. Because you make it like, say, for Singapore. Again, there are certain other policies as well that you make the car, out of reach of a common person and make the public transport so strong that, so all put together, there's no just one solution. I think everything, bits and bits, sort of leads to, yeah.
In India, it's not possible. In New York, it is okay, 130-story building and only 8 car parks. So they force you to use public transport. Not possible in India. We are widening all our roads. We are adding that one C-link, that is to welcome the cars. So you are giving 2 times more parking than 5 years back. So you are adding your car parks. So you are adding your road space. Eventually, public transport is the only solution. You cannot avoid, you cannot force people to, that odd and even number like Delhi does. Even that won't work in Mumbai.
I think it's, very good point about public transport. I think beyond public transport, I think the most important thing is we have, I would say compared to most of India, we have reasonably good public transport. And I think with the metro, that should make it even better. I think there are 2 points, one of which is already being done, where the metro will offer direct connectivity to the larger buildings, where you can just literally walk into your building from the metro station. I think that will really help. With that, if they actually allow one to reduce the number of car parking provided in the building at the client's discretion, I think that will help. Second, for buildings that are not directly connected, I think simple things like bike share, bike lanes, you know, from the station I can bike to my place of work and things like that. I think they're very small, easy things to do which will really change places like Lower Parel and BKC, places where there's a lot of density for, you know, one part of the day. So I think, yeah, much to that point, I think a lot of these problems are solved elsewhere in the world. It's about implementation of those sort of solutions here.
I was exactly going to say the same thing. When I was in college, I live in Malad, 15 minutes from the station. When I was in college, 11th standard, what I used to do was take my cycle to the station, drop it there, and go to my college, which was Mitibai in Villeparle. That somehow is lost. I don't know why. I mean, it's the most efficient solution you can have. Exactly the same point that I was going to put. I don't know why it's lost.
So last mile connectivity is
exactly
the only solution.
Yes.
Done. So with this, I just want to wrap up the discussion. Any last 2 words in terms of what you all envision for Mumbai 2030? What do you think 10 years from now we can expect? Because you are the guys who are drawing our city. So what do you think we can expect in 2030 in Mumbai, starting from there?
Okay, I'll take it. I think 8 years to go, and I see a very bright future. High rises would come, we'll have better infrastructure, we'll have better last mile connectivity like Vivek said. Hopefully our areas would be more walkable. I mean, I would imagine the whole fort area or whole BKC that you get dropped down on the outskirts, or there's a underground connectivity to the whole project like, you know, done in other parts of the world. And it's all walkable. I mean, we love walking when we go in the same temperature in other countries, but it becomes a little difficult. So I'm very optimistic. So let's hope for the best.
I really want to see 10 iconic buildings in Mumbai skyline. And inviting people from abroad and asking them to repeat something which they have done somewhere else in the world is not going to help for us to create the character, you know. So we need those 10 iconic buildings which are nowhere in the world existing. So we need that.
Setting benchmarks.
As I said, I would love to see the public connectivity, which is, this is close to my heart because, you know, I've been to New York, almost lived in New York for 3 months, Portland, Oregon, all these places, and these places are fantastic, so I would like to see that in Mumbai as well, where you can just walk down, take a stroll, and it is a pleasure walking on the streets.
Yeah, so unfortunately one doesn't become an architect if they're not an eternal optimist. So always optimistic. There are things in society which aren't going great right now, but long term I definitely feel the future is definitely bright. 2-3 things which I feel could make a major impact would be the metro. I feel will have a huge impact in the way, in our quality of life, because I think right now the average time spent in commuting and even the method of commuting, though it's getting a little better, I think we've not, it's a very, Mumbai compared to most of the country is actually a very rich place, but I think our quality of life is much lesser than other parts of this country. And I am very hopeful that that part will actually change in a big way in the near future.
Yeah, basically, looking at the way things are going, to me it looks that the townside buildings are now moving to the suburbs. So what used to once happen in South Mumbai and some other places, I think those are moving to like places like Mulund, Thane, because Mulund is now going to have that Rijue 65 floors. So something which was seen there is going to move from there, and maybe with the given restricted space, the future is going to be more taller buildings. So I would see the advent of like double-deck elevators also, which is yet not come in. Maybe from design point of view, we'll need to work on that, because as you get lesser and lesser space, restricted space, you will need to move taller. And moving more people at a given point of time with the flexibility of having, the alternative floors, I think, okay, that would be one of the things which I would be looking for. And there are some architects, some developers with whom I think we are working on those concepts. Maybe it is a bit futuristic as of today, but I'm sure it will happen. In terms of the dispatching systems, what we see today, as I said, we moved from 2-button systems to destination dispatch to higher group operations, maybe 8-car, 10-car, 12-car. I think the next will be in the mixed use development type buildings, where you have office buildings in a low zone group, high zone group, and then some shuttle elevators which will connect both the groups. So there will be some unique or advanced dispatching system which will loan the shuttle elevators for the group where the demand is more. So like a lower zone group has the more demand at that point of time. So the shuttle elevators will loan out, that will get into that group and help those group to move passengers at a faster pace. And so it happens if there is a higher peak demand on the high zone elevators. So the shuttle elevators loans out its service to the higher zone elevators. So this is some new technologies which are going to evolve and come at our place, so it's going to be available. Thank you.
So that was from the elevators company. Your question, I want to see 18 meter per second elevator coming up in next 10 years. That is what he was expecting.
Do we have any questions from the audience for the panelists?
All you architects, you were talking about the various challenges that you see in Mumbai and probably several parts of the country with respect to infrastructure, last mile connectivity, and so on and so forth. As a group of people who are extremely powerful, well connected, what is it that you as a community can do so that things improve, not just in Mumbai, but probably across various cities in the country? Is there anything that you are planning? Is there something like that? Any of the architects can take up the question.
So you said we are well connected.
Absolutely.
Most vulnerable. Okay. Least preference is given to architects, professionals. Bacha kucha paisa milta hai. So. See,
engineer kya bolega bechara?
Yeah. What we can do actually, when I said we want to actually create the character for our country, not only Mumbai, entire country. So our buildings are going to speak. If you are going to make the same buildings which you were making 10 years back, okay, even today after 30 years of practice, how many iconic buildings we could give to the country? So I don't really want to market myself here, but then now after 30 years, I have become little choosy. And unless there is something which I can give back, I don't accept it. I don't accept the project itself. So that is the only thing in our hand. We'll have to give something different to the country as a character. Okay, we are just adopting blindly. That is not acceptable.
Good. Wonderful views from all the distinguished panelists. Since everybody is putting their eggs into the public transport in a very large way, I think all over the world the emerging things are coming is either a 10-minute city or a 15-minute city or a 20-minute city from wherever you are. I think that will answer some of the good question which is already rightly raised over there by every one of you. And more importantly, can we really therefore bring within that, now Pune is, Paris is already being taken as a 15-minute city. And from any part of the city, you can walk across in 50 minutes to reach over there. So transit-oriented development with a 10 to 15 minutes walk, like what he bought his cycle over there, took the train, go over there. A lot of mixed-use development is going to be in order, even within the skyscraper, to have a lot of activities of not only retail, offices, hotel, residences, including healthcare, all combined in the particular transportation component. But I think equally important is to bring the, I like the way in which Viril Dhaval really brought out at the beginning side, to bring the culture and the social lifestyle, which you're missing a little time because of the whole nuclear way of development. You got to bring that also, life also coming into those skyscrapers, and just not like robots moving up and down. You got to also bring life over there. I was in a large number of programs on vertical cities in different parts of the world. India is also getting one of them very shortly. And in that, to bring vibrancy, life, and things in a large way, like your earlier slides on festivals and various, how can you incorporate that? And more so, of course, that will bring a big challenge for the lift person as well as for the structural design with different loading coming of different, this one, as well as trying to take care of the issues related to the horizontal movement due to wind and the sway effect. He told some of those particular things there. It will bring challenges, but there are solutions available, recreation spaces coming over there, and that's what my good friend has rightly raised it, and he has already put in a large number of his good building. I'm happy about that, Vinod has done that. Possibly try to give a 10 to 15 minute city, transit-oriented development, mixed-use type development should be the way forward to have intensely, optimally, as well as to sustainably develop the whole thing. And the last message I want to say is, which nobody talked about, is to have green as an important component, saving of energy, saving of water, waste management efficiency, as well as to have the green cover coming all over, horizontal green, vertical green, roof green, also to come over there in a very large way. I think possibly that will bring the skyscraper design that you are all doing, and creatively each one of you brought outstanding solutions, and that's a real way forward than the classical vanilla type of skyscraper like sore thumb standing out. That's way forward. And I'm with you totally on what you said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh. We've had a wonderful session, and we thank all the panelists for your active participation and all the pearls of wisdom that you imparted to the audience members. I think what remains to be done is, TAC, if we can please help hand out the conference souvenirs to all the panelists. Can I please invite Mr. Dhaval Thakur? Mr. Jay Shah? Mr. Vatsal Gokhani? Architect Vivek Bolaji? Architect Nishant Gupta? And finally, Mr. Narendra Singh. Thank you very much to all the panelists. We formally declare the session closed. Let's have a round of applause for them, please.